Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week I wanted to show you guys 3 easy ways to improve your artwork. You don't have to be an amazing artist to do this, and you can actually apply the exact same ideas that I'm going to be talking about to abstract work as well. Alright, so let's get into it. So the 3 things I'm going to be focusing on? So the 3 things I'm going to be focusing on is color, texture, and value. So let's start with color. I can honestly talk about color forever, but I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I possibly can. But if you can understand how to use color, it will fundamentally improve your work. So I'm going to give you my quick color crash course. I can't believe I said that without screwing that up. Look at me go. These are complementary colors. So we have orange and blue, red and green, and yellow and purple. How I like to remember them is that they're soulmates that always long to be together, and you need to be that matchmaker to put them together. Putting complementary colors together really draws people into the work, and you don't need to go crazy with them. Just because I'm showing you 3 complementary colors that you can use together doesn't mean that you need to use all 3 in one piece. Orange and blue is what I'm using, so I have orange in one portrait and blue in the other portrait. I think it looks beautiful. It really draws you into it. Also, as a side note, if you mix your complementary colors together, you could get different types of brown. This is honestly just a nice way to make more colorful browns and something that's different and not straight from the tube, so that's pretty cool. So depending on what type of brown you want, you could add more or less of the colors. So for instance, if you're using red and green to make brown and you want a more reddish brown, add more red. It's as easy as that. So this specific tip I think works best for representational artists, so for anyone who isn't making abstract work, that is making work that's more true to life, and that is to add the background color into your subject. It helps so much. This is something that I'm literally going to be doing forever. I will never not do this. It really creates unity in your piece when you do this. It looks like the subject is actually sitting within your piece, and it definitely just ties everything together. My last tip about color is about warms and cools. So there are warm reds, there are cool reds, there's warm blues, there's cool blues, warm yellows, cool yellows. You get what I'm saying. You might be surprised to know that the backgrounds for both of my paintings are warm colors. This is something that I feel like you learn more about as you paint, and you learn what is a warm color and a cool color. But the simplest way I could describe that is it's all about the undertone you're using. So if there's like an undertone of red in a blue, then it's a warm color. There's an undertone, I don't know where that accent just came from. If there's an undertone of an orange in like a yellow color, then it's a warm color. So that's just something I think it takes practice to see that, but once you see it, it becomes easier to learn how to use those colors in your work. It's good to have a balance of this or play off these colors in some way. Unfortunately, I didn't do it in my paintings. I don't know why, and I don't know why I'm just realizing this now, that I didn't do this. I have mostly warm colors all over my painting. I have a little bit of cool colors in the shadows of the girl's face, but most of my painting is just warm colors. I think it would have been nice if I could have put some blues in the shadows of the painting with the boy, but you know, here we are, so my bad. All right, so let's move on to value. Now, I feel like everybody likes to make this topic so complicated, and it doesn't need to be complicated. I'm going to explain this as simply as I can. Value just refers to how light or dark something is. When talking about value, think of everything in terms of black and white. In this black and white world, we have things that are very dark. What would be a good example? This chair. This is probably a very dark value. Things that are very white, probably my skin right now. So you have your highlights and your darks, and then you also have midtones. So a midtone would, for example, would be like my shirt, I think would be like a midtone, like some values probably in my hair. By the way, it's called a midtone because it would be in the middle of the scale of light and dark. It's not a white, it's not a highlight, and it's not a dark, so it's in the middle of that. It's a mid-tone. So why am I bringing this up? Well, it's because we as a species are drawn to contrast. So anything that is super contrasted, where light meets dark, our eye will automatically go there. You want people to be drawn to your work, you want them to not be able to stop looking at it, and contrast is a great way to do that. A high contrasted part of my painting would be where the hair on the boy meets his like forehead, because his skin is really light, his hair is super dark, so that's a very high contrasted area. His eyes would be another high contrasted area. I also put like little white dots in his eyes for like highlights, so that's a high contrasted area. Use contrast to your advantage. What I'm about to say might be difficult to understand because it took me a long time to actually understand this, but color has value. Maybe that's obvious to some of you, maybe it's not. It took me a long time to understand that. So the background of my painting, both of my paintings, are mid-tones. Colors have value to them, and different colors can have the same value. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. As you make more artwork, you will end up understanding that. It's just one of those things that, like I said, like it took me a long time to get that. All right, and the final thing that we're going to talk about is texture. Texture, I feel like, is like a very underrated thing that artists use. Some beginner artists don't use texture, some more advanced artists don't use texture, and honestly, if you start using more texture in your work, it will make a huge difference. In these two paintings, I'm using gouache, but you can honestly use texture with any material that you're using. You can utilize texture with any material that you're using. If you're using pencil, it's the same thing. Try, instead of just using the tip of your pencil the whole time, use the side. You'll get a different mark with that. And that mark is much more interesting to look at than just the same repetitive mark over and over again. Think about how you're applying your materials. Are you applying your paint thin or thick? Are you using long brush strokes or short brush strokes? Are you pressing really hard with your brush? Are you pressing really soft? All of those things read into the painting, and it creates depth in your work, and then it also just creates variety. It keeps people engaged in looking at your work. Some people don't want texture in their work, and that plays into the meaning of their work. But if there is no reason to why you're not using texture, then I would suggest try using it. Just try and see what happens. See if other people are liking it. See if you like it. It can definitely elevate your piece, I promise you that. Anyway, that's gonna be the end of this video. If you guys like this video, then give it a like. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. And I will see you guys next week for I don't know what yet, but I will see you guys next week. Bye.